Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
Mayor Wardell.
Here. The notice requirements of Chapter 231 Public Law of 1975 have been satisfied by the publication of said notice in the Aspenburg Press, the Coaster, and by final copy with the municipal clerk. If you all could please join me in a flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we take a look here, as there we have no minutes to approve at this meeting here, so we can move right along to communications with our police report for September and October. Well,
I did not include it in your.
oh, okay, all right. It's on this one.
All right, September's police report, 2019.
Mike.
What?
In 2019, the total calls for service were 988. In 2020, 833. 2019 DWI arrests 2, DWI arrests 21. Traffic accidents for 2019 there's 19. In 2020 there's 22. Narcotic incidences in 19 were 12. And in 20 there were 5. Violations of our ordinances, 40 for 2019 and 55 for 2020. Arrests, there were 51 in 19 and 24 in 2020. Motor vehicle summonses, 159 in 2019 and 128 in 2020. There were various training sessions during the month of September.
Thank you very much. Moving along on the agenda here, next would be a Board of Education report.
The October police.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done. I'm
No,
so sorry,
We had
Jamie.
2 months here. No, it's okay.
You know what? Yep, there's my next page. I apologize.
I'm sorry. Total calls for service in October 2019 were 900. In 2020, there were 747. DWI arrests 2019, 0. 1 for 2020. Traffic accidents. Total calls for service to 2019 was 15, and in 2020 was 29. Narcotic incidents, there's 5 for 2019, 11 for 2020. Violations of our ordinances, 27 for 2019, 27 for 2020. Arrests, 33 for 2019, 29 for 2020. Motor vehicle summonses, 109 for 2019, 120 for 2020. Various training sessions were attended for the month of October.
Thank you very much. Sorry to jump the gun there on you, Ms. Brown. All right, communications, we did police reports. Next we have presentations. We have our CFO, Mr. Antoni's here to discuss our best practices presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. We're required every year to answer a number of questions for the Division of Government Services for best practices. Everybody did get a copy of this. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. We're required to get a total of 16 points in order to get full state aid next year. We did get 22 points, so well in excess of what we needed. If anybody has any particular questions regarding any item on here?
Good, okay.
Just every year it changes the question, so it's like a challenge every year to see what the number is.
So, you know, and Steve, that City did very well, so I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much, Mr. Antoni's. Board of Education Board, I don't see any members of the Board of Education on here or in here tonight. So we're gonna move right along to our Borough Administrator's report. Mr. Cody?
Hi, sorry about that. Closest is here, so let him sit down first. You made it in time for my report. All right, so I'm just gonna step up here so, because I'm like out of the view of the cameras, I realized that when I was looking. First of all, tonight is the first time we are live on Facebook, and we will be in the future going live on YouTube as well. It's a brand new system. It's picking up the entire room except for the far corners. Like I realize that I am not in the picture, which is not a bad thing, but I am not in the picture. But it's very sensitive, so the mic, you don't even have to speak very loud. It's going to pick it up as mic throughout the room, is picking what you're saying up. So I think it's really good. It shows a lot of transparency, and I thank the council. Last month you guys did approve me to get this, because during these times with COVID, it's a huge huge, huge thing for our community. Be able to hear the meetings without having to actually be here. You can't participate this way, but if you do choose to participate, you come here. If not, you can at least listen to what's going on. So I think it's a great thing. So if everybody passed First Responder Park at this point is completed to the point of where it needs to be until we can get the memorials done. They put in some of the other bushes. They had to change some of the bushes out that were wrong. That were taken care of, but we still have to work towards memorials, but on the county side where we got the open space grant, that money finally has been spent. Therefore, that allows us to put that away. What happens is if we hold these monies and don't actually go through the process of doing the work, it could hurt us for other grants later on. So we had to kind of hurry up this year and do a couple of them. So we did basically two, one right after the other, and that's why Memorial Park is still happening. I don't know if anybody's been down to Memorial, but the playground is done. They made some corrections on Friday that needed to be done. I love the rubber surface, the way it came out. If you saw, there were some trees taken down. Those trees are being replaced. They were dead. We're actually looking at putting new trees in the next few weeks. I didn't know you could plant this time of year, but I was told you can. So we are planting, right? And one of them I pushed for was an evergreen, so we get a little bit more color, right, into it. Mr. Renee had mentioned that color would be a big thing, so that's why I pushed for that. So Garrett's going to pick up an evergreen to be one of the trees that are there to bring color to the park all year round. DPW is finishing up the area. If you notice, they cleaned it up. They did seed, so we should see some grass starting to grow soon. And finally, the concrete base for the gazebo will be put in the next couple weeks. That's going to be in that far left corner. They're going to put that in now, and then as soon as the gazebo is ready, it can just be installed. So we're looking January for that. Again, we keep getting delayed because of COVID. Not sure how that works with COVID, but I guess the manufacturing plants are down. But they're saying January is our projected date to get it delivered. Hawthorne and Woodland. That is where we're doing the DOT project, where we're getting the new curbs and the ADA ramps. We ran into a little problem, but not on our end. On American Water's end. So American Water has some water main there that is old, right? Our engineer looked at it and we're like, it's really old, and we don't want to repave the road right this minute if you're not going to change that, because then we're going to have to rip the whole road out again, and it's going to make a mess. So we're in the process of going back and forth, myself and the engineer, with American Water, and we're fighting to get them to replace that water main ASAP so we can pave the road for good for a long period of time. So it has a moratorium on it, so they're not digging it up anytime soon. So that's an important thing we're working on. I'll let you guys know where the progress is on that. And then, finally, the new sign for Borough Hall is in. It is at Public Works. We get our permits for them. We're just waiting for approvals. Once those approvals are done, we can start installing it. We'll take the old one out, and we'll put the new one in. And it should be, it's going to be a lot nicer. We'll be able to actually control it from our phones. So, if we need to change something or emergency comes up, doesn't matter where I am, somebody calls, because God put this up, I can put it up from my phone, right? It doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about a program downstairs. So hopefully that's going to be a big change. Other than that, I hope everybody's happy we're back here. I am. It makes it a little easier for me, and I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I know on the agenda it says next week public participation. I'm gonna move that after council and mayor reports. I think it just fits better in that spot to answer questions before we actually get into any action on the agenda. So we'll begin with our council reports. We'll begin first with the Administration and Finance Committee by Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor. So we've collected the capital budgeting requests and structure sheets for the upcoming year. So we're going to be going over those very shortly. Myself, the administrator, Mr. Tribini, and Mr. Economy is the CFO. So we're going to have more to report on that within the next couple of weeks. One of the big things, I know the last council meeting we had talked about the senior freeze program being the last deadline date was November 2nd. The good thing is it's actually been extended, the deadline. So if you know anybody who's disabled, is a senior resident, they should really take advantage of this program. The deadline now is December 31st. And it's based on last year's taxes. So if you were able to file last year's taxes, you can apply to have your property taxes frozen at this rate. So just want to remind everybody to please take advantage of this program. We don't get many in New Jersey, so if we could take advantage of whatever we get, I highly recommend it. So December 31st for the senior freeze program.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Move along to Public Works, Mr. Sullivan.
The only thing I'd like to report, just a reminder, the lead collection will end on November 30th. That's all I have at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Moving along to Law and Ordinance, Mr. Calhoun.
No report tonight.
No report tonight. Okay, thank you, Mr. Calhoun. Administration and Justice, Ms. Pappas.
Hi, everybody. First off, the police department wanted to thank everyone who donated to the PBA fund drive over this weekend. They were able to raise enough to feed approximately 1,500 meals, or provide 1,500 meals. So what a great turnout that was, and great job by our police department once again, and everyone in the community. Also, the PD wants to remind everyone to lock your doors. They're having an influx of vehicle break-ins in the surrounding towns. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Pappas. Special Services, Ms. Renee.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to report that the trees along, East End Avenue, in our wetlands have been replaced. So that's good news, the county did replace them, and that's the main thing. Mr. Trevini went over everything else, so we're good to go.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Renee. And Human Services, Mr. Kosis.
Thank you, Mayor. I just need to report that the fire company finished the banquet hall. They had their open house this past weekend, and it's available for rentals.
Very good. I was unfortunate, I couldn't get over there on that day. My son's game got rescheduled, so I wasn't able to make it, but it looks very nice.
Yeah, it does.
Out there, so hopefully they're able to get some pictures on that. A few things, Mike, I don't have too long of a report tonight. One of the things I do like to touch on each week here is the information I've received as far as our ongoing battle here with COVID-19. So as of today, 115 new cases was reported in the county of Monmouth today, bringing the state total to 50,368. Again, this is since March 12th when they actually started counting this number, so that's not all at one time here. Neptune City has 116 confirmed cases that we know of. Again, that number sometimes may not be correct either. Sometimes they lump Neptune people into Neptune City, and a lot of times that number fluctuates. Not a lot. I think the most I've ever seen is like 4 or 5, but it could possibly go up or down based on that. In Monmouth County, we have 122 patients currently hospitalized in county hospitals. 22 of those are in ICU, and 10 would be on ventilators. So there really wasn't much of a change in hospitalization from the last 2 weeks, which is, I think, a good sign. The positivity rate definitely is going up, but hospitalizations have not, so I think that's positive. I think that's probably the biggest concern, is that we don't overburden our hospitals going through. Looking at the state numbers, just to kind of compare a little bit to give an idea of where we rank with the rest of the state here. Throughout the state, we have 1,224 people hospitalized. 238 of those are in ICU, and 85 are on ventilators. So the numbers are a little higher throughout the state compared to Monmouth County. For example, the state overall positivity rate is 7.74. It's almost 7.75 is a positivity rate. Here in Monmouth County, we're 3.5. So to give you an idea, we are less than half of the positivity rate here in Monmouth County. I think we'd like to keep it that way here, but we'd also like to see that number lower, obviously, throughout the state as well. But here at the county level, we seem to be doing a pretty good job. The county is still providing free testing sites throughout the month. Again, you don't need an appointment, you don't need a prescription, you don't need to be symptomatic, you just need to be a Monmouth County resident. Each time they do it, they have 100 tests. After 100 tests, they stop. But I have not heard of any that run out too quickly, so I think you need to go. As of right now, I see the next one will be actually tomorrow in Freehold from 4 to 7, the Freehold Borough Fire Department, which is on Main Street in Freehold. Another one on Thursday will actually be closer. This one's in Neptune, at the Neptune First Aid Squad, which is right there, like on the corner pretty much, like Belmar Boulevard and 33. All right, it's near the the Walgreens there, is where the First Aid building is in Neptune. And then another one this Saturday will be in Long Branch from 9 to noon at Bucky Jeans Community Center. So there are 3 options the next few days here for Monmouth County residents. All this information can be found on the Monmouth County website. It's pretty well laid out there for you. As most of you saw today, the governor did come out today around 1 o'clock and has let us know there will be some new restrictions being put in place here, particularly to our restaurant business, which I know we have, for a small town, we have a lot of restaurants in town. And some of them just reopened. I mean, Pete Elvis just reopened a few weeks ago. So this is definitely going to hurt them in the long run. I feel kind of bad for our restaurants in town. So it would be nice if our residents can maybe order out from our restaurants here in town and patronize our restaurants here in town that have struggled. This is going to be really difficult for not only the restaurant owners, but the people who work in the restaurant business as well. Maybe we went back to work and now they're going to be out of work again. I mean, not out of work, but limited work to what they're gonna be, so I just want to keep that in my mind. So let's talk about Halloween. You know, I think we did a fantastic job here in Neptune City with Halloween. I think a great job. The kids, you know, participated, they had a good time. I want to thank all the residents who were involved, putting up the purple pumpkins, right? I saw them throughout town when I went around, just take a look here. You know, the decorating contest went over very well, all right? So congratulations to our three winners, all right? So each one of them was able to take home a nice prize here. I also would like to thank our judges, two of which are in the room right now here. All right, we have our administrator was one of our judges, our chief was another one, and of course, Miss Sylvia Laughlin was the other one who's not here right now. I heard the winners did give the chief a little bit of a scare, so they were quite proud of that.
Yes, yes.
So they were very proud of the fact that I got a message, I got a private message on Facebook going, we just scared the chief. Like, how does that not win? I'm like, I'm not one of the judges, stop carrying my favor, okay?
It was scary.
But the ones who won did a very nice job here. Second place was Ann, but I'm just kidding. Miss Pappas was actually our second place winner, but who does a fantastic job every year with her judges. So again, I'd like to thank our judges, but I'd really like a big thank you to our sponsors here. Again, we just talked about these restaurants over here, and we had 3 different restaurants donate $100 gift cards. Kelly's Tavern, Pete Melva's, and Molinari, each donated $100. And they've all been struggling, but they wanted to give something to the community, and they thought this was a great thing for the community. So I think this is something that we could probably continue to do in the future. We have 13 people involved, and I think we can get more in the future, right? And so, you know, I think a Christmas one might be coming up here, right? So
We spoke about it, I think Dave and myself and Councilman Thomas, Councilman, we all sat down and talked about it, right? So
Yeah.
we'll put it together.
I don't see any reason why we won't do one of those here, all right? I'll have a reason, I'll put that up, no, I'm just kidding. I'll put up, that roof is high, I don't like heights all that much, so I'm not good about putting up lights, all right? Also, despite the weather, because it was pretty cold on Halloween night, we actually had a pretty good turnout for the movie. I did not expect the number of people we did. I mean, I would estimate we had close to 100 people there for the movie, which was about 90 more than I would have expected, because I was freezing when I was there. But one of our residents did creatively bring a little propane fire pit with him. I was like, somebody said that legal? I was like, I don't know, but it was smart. I was like, it's not my job, I don't know, but they were warm, everyone else was cold, so I thought it was pretty good. And, you know, every kid got candy, so I want to thank all the people who donated the candy. We have tons of residents and employees and professionals and members of council, you know, who all dropped off candy, and we had more candy than we know what to do with, and Tammy keeps putting it in front of me, she does like 100 gram bars, all right? But nevertheless, it was a great, considering the situation we're in, I think the kids had a great time on Halloween, and the residents had a lot to do with that, so I wanted to thank everybody doing it. Mr. Trevino already talked about the playground and the parks over there, so it really does look good. And this weekend was beautiful, and there were a ton of people down at that park, and the playground especially was really being used. And everybody I talked to down there was like, this is great, this is wonderful, thank you so much. So, you know, Neptune City, we did it right by Memorial Park. That place is getting nicer and nicer. Of course, that secret's getting out though, it's getting used. As you see, people at home, if you're watching, right, we have our new live streaming equipment here, which is great, something we wanted to do for a while, and now we have here. As Mr. Trevino said, you can't participate live on a live, you know, when you're live streaming, but that doesn't mean you can't ask us questions before or after a meeting here. So, you know, if you go on our website, you can reach out to any one of the people in the governing body through our email that goes right through the website here if you ever have a question, right? So don't think that you can't ask questions if you don't want to. We encourage you to ask questions. An informed citizen is a much better citizen, I always say. So it's always better to ask a question. As I tell my daughter, you know, the person who asks a question is a fool for a moment, the person who never asks a question is a fool for a lifetime, all right?
Mayor,
Yes.
just so you know, anybody who wants to speak to a council person directly also, just email me, and as soon as I get it, I'll forward it like I do to department head. So if somebody says, I want to speak to Councilman Kosis, I will, as soon as I get it, I'll send it on to him. So if you have a question directly to somebody.
Great idea, thank you very much. And a couple of one more thing here on my agenda here, it went away, but I know what it said. Tomorrow is our first land use board meeting since March. We haven't had a land use board meeting in quite some time, partly because there was nothing really before to go for land use board, but tomorrow's agenda is a decent sized agenda for land use board. So that's gonna be 7 o'clock at the community center. We're not doing it here, 7 o'clock in the community center, because that's how it was already advertised.
And I think because if they're about to, usually more people to show for something.
Right, and they would also for the number of people. So 7 o'clock in the community center will be our land use board meeting. And that is all I have, all right? So moving forward, is there anybody from the public who wishes to participate on agenda items? Any questions on agenda items? All right, just checking. You knew where I was looking, all right? Seeing no unfinished business, we'll then move on to our new business and the introduction of ordinance 2020-11.
Oh, Mayor, so, we'll read the title. This is, ordinance 2020-11, stormwater control. Yeah. So, placement of chapter 139.3 in its entirety, stormwater management of the Borough of Neptune City Borough Code. This is an ordinance required by the DEP. Every municipality has to do it. It basically replaces an entire section of your existing stormwater management ordinance. It's verbatim copy from what the DEP requires, so I made no substantive changes to it. Tonight we'll introduce it, and that has to go to land use because it does involve some certain land use design standards and things like that for the event of development. So it has to go to them. They report back to us. Then we have a public hearing, possible adoption.
Okay.
And just so you heads up, we're doing this pretty early so that we have some time if there's any questions or anything, because we don't need to do this till March, but we're getting it done, on before.
Correct. March is the deadline to introduce an ordinance over the, from year to year. It has to be in the same year.
Okay.
So that's why we're introducing it now, and public hearing and possible adoption before the end of the year.
Okay, perfect. Do I have, any other questions?
I didn't know when we were interview the person then ask questions, but the only thing that I would say, we don't really know then yet whether or not this will affect actual physical elements we've got in town, as far as, I mean, obviously the problem here is that we talk about it all the time. Let's go to land use first, and then they look at it, and it comes back to us, is that how it works?
Correct.
Okay.
It doesn't affect developers more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll plan on building something later on. It has nothing to do with existing, it's
Yeah.
more what's gonna come new. And they're gonna have to do more to help with stormwater. Because if you've ever been on, I used to sit on a land use board, and I will tell you that that is the only staple you know every time you're gonna come to a meeting is the water gonna affect me? Somebody's stormwater, when you're doing something, gonna affect me? So the state's, I guess, doing some changes to make sure nothing happens to people.
Okay.
All right, so I need another motion to introduce ordinance 2020-11.
So,
Offered by Mr. Costas,
Second.
second by Mr. Renati. So I don't think there's any other questions. Roll call, please.
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
yes.
Ms. Pappas?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's adopted. Next, we'll move on to our consent agenda. And again, all items listed are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the mayor and council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member or members so requested, in which case the item or items will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. The one motion signifies the adoption of all resolutions, receive and file letters, correspondence, reports, and approval of applications and minutes. So I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Offered by Ms. Pappas,
Second?
second by Mr. Thomas.
I just have a little question for the amendment, for the agreement of, 142 Steiner Avenue.
I don't know if we can ask questions at that
Yeah,
point. Can we ask questions at that point, separate?
It's
Okay,
fine.
just let me,
Yeah,
okay.
it's silly nonsense.
Okay, that's fine, I just want to be sure, go ahead.
Just if our administrator can go over a little bit about that, that would be
Okay,
great.
so actually, it's not in front of me right now.
Sure.
Jason might actually have it.
Yeah.
Him, that Jason.
There was a request
He
made
has it.
to change the contract between the borough and the redeveloper. There's been some changes to the plans. For example, I think there were gonna be 3 buildings previously, and now it's 2 buildings. And they're adding additional parking spaces to accomplish that. Oh, and they want to change the schedule.
Yeah.
And to accomplish that, the process is we first have to approve it here, agree to the changes in the contract, so that the council knows. I recommended rejecting certain changes. They wanted some language in the contract removed as to, assignment of the rights to redevelop, and I said I wasn't going to recommend the council do that, and then the attorney for the redeveloper said that was fine, we don't have to include that change, which was good. And so the process is, if we approve this resolution tonight, it'll go before land use, and then they'll approve these changes, and then the redeveloper can get started on the project.
And just so you know, this all stems from meetings that I had and the mayor had with Mr. Walsh for moving the project. We were kind of straight that we didn't want apartments there. We were looking for the condos to stay. He wanted to maybe change it to the apartments, and that never, he got out of that room with us. And we were able to get him to agree to continue with the condos, and this is just really just changes that I don't even know if he needs variances for the changes he's gonna go for land use. It's just a matter of changing the way the building's gonna sit, and it has to do with the way JCP&L's lines run down the road. To move the JCP&L lines would be $500,000, so that he doesn't have to change that, so he has to just change the way it's being developed. It's
Right.
the same amount of units, just the way it's being developed, and it still puts within our original plan. So,
The pole, he thought JCP&L originally would be willing to move the pole. The pole with live wires is only about like, the way the original plan said, it's like about 6 feet from somebody's
yeah,
property.
it was like. he thought it was
So with the 3
50.
buildings, so he's gonna build 2, wants to do 2 buildings, so the number of units is the same, the purpose is still the same, parking still is basically the same.
I think parking's more now.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more, there's more parking out there than less buildings.
And landscaping.
Same number of units, I believe.
Yeah.
Less buildings and more parking.
Yeah, which is better, because then you have less chance of people parking off street, you know, having more burden, so. Yeah, it's just approval thing has to go before the land use board, because really any change, even minor changes to a redevelopment plan has to go before the land
They
use
need a
board.
site plan change.
So that has to be asked from us to do it, so that's what that's on here for.
I think my only concern is that there's no real, like, start date or end date, like, this has been going on for years, and.
Yeah.
No,
Schedule.
yeah, there's a schedule.
In your email, you should have received a schedule.
Yeah.
Schedule.
Well, he sent me a revised project schedule.
Okay.
We'll actually be ahead of schedule if it's approved at tomorrow's land use board meeting. Because we would have, land use board would have approved it in November, so they'd be ahead, and he has, just to summarize, certificate of final completion July 2025.
We made sure that.
Yeah, myself and Mr. Chavita met with Mr. Walsper and his brother,
Yeah.
on a couple occasions, and we were kinda like,
Yeah.
you know, are we gonna get this going? So finally, last time, he kinda told us what his was slowing him down, and this was the issue. I think he was concerned that this might, you know, put extra damper or slow down, but we're like, well, you're not changing
Yeah.
you know, all you can do is just make, no, he needs a variance even when he's.
No,
doing
he
it.
said everything looks like it's clean without variance.
Yeah, so,
We'll know that from.
so once we were able to get through that and all sides were confused with it, okay, so actually, I hope we're starting sooner than what you originally was saying.
Yeah, yes.
And the other question is, I know, back in 2018, I had asked if he had the funds for everything, and then recently, you know, we were told, oh, they're struggling with the funds, so again, have you made sure that the funds, he has the backing?
Yeah, well, he's actually taken on a partner, that was one of the other things that came on here, is that, you know, in the redevelopment contract, he is the sole person in there, so even that change, taking on a partner for economic, that also has to be approved by land use as well. But yes, he does have the monetary backing to do it.
Yeah, he had 2 choices, either take on a partner or put apartments in there, and you know that wasn't gonna happen, so.
Yeah.
We made sure that it was some state condos, because a partner should get 100% funding, you can't get 100% funding on condos, so he was gonna get a boat loan, but he didn't.
And to Mr. Walter's credit, he never wanted to do
Yeah,
apartments, he
yeah.
thought that was his only option, because he didn't know he could take on a partner at this point. So when he realized he could take on a partner, he said, no, I would prefer to do
Yeah.
condos, so that was really what it was. So
He was
is-
good, he worked with us on it, and he wants to move forward, so.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the partner is gonna be taking like a 50.1 share, and he's gonna have a 49.9 share, so the partner will be the primary, but it's still Walter's project.
And who is the partner?
We don't know yet. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, roll call please.
Mr. Calhoun?
Yes.
Mr. Kosis?
Yes.
Ms. Pappas?
Yes.
Ms. Renee?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Resolution adopted, thank you. We'll move along then to public participation. Anybody from the public wish to be heard on any and all items? Speak now or hold your peace.
Of course.
What do you got first tonight, Jen?
Jen Coombs, I have a quick question. Last year or beginning of this year, you guys, I don't know what year it was, but it was you guys passed an ordinance of fair practices when you do like yearly, yearly proposals or something, or for contracts.
Are you talking like requests for professionals?
Yeah.
Or BRQ? Yeah, we're still, it doesn't actually require a resolution to do, it's just by practice, and we're actually gonna be going out this month.
It's actually your fault, it's not just for the mayor's choice. but the mayor has chosen to go out to do a fair practice, so we have prepared everything. Actually, Tammy Brown today prepared every one of the RFQs, and they'll be going out, and everybody could, they'll be posted on our website, and they'll be put in the paper.
Right, what you refer to as a fair and open practice.
Okay, that's what, yeah.
And that's, we're still continuing with the fair and open practice, it just didn't need to be passed by this council to do, we're just gonna continue with the same practice. No change.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. Anyone else from the audience this hearing? All right, seeing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
Offered by Mr. Kostis,
I'll second it.
seconded by Mr. Calhoun, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, so it's nice being back in council chambers there. Feels like coming home, doesn't it?
Yep.